Fig trees of the mind. Have you ever had somebody tell you that something was just a fig Newton of your imagination? Fig tree of the mind. It's something that's in there that's not producing. That's not bringing you what you want. And in this story, Jesus and the fig tree, I think it's an interesting story. The point of it, at least the way I see it, is a teaching point. Jesus is trying to give the disciples, and in these several stories that are around the parable of the fig tree, he's trying to give them the idea the same power that is in him is in them. The same things he can do, they can do. And they all have that same power of the word, to speak the word. And practically every time he spoke the word, what happened? Some miracle happened. Now, to see a fig tree wither, for them would have been, Jesus, we've seen better. I mean, it definitely is not something to demonstrate his power, because they've seen him bless a couple of items, some bread and some fish, feed a whole bunch of people. They've seen him heal the blind instantaneously. See, most of the times that they've observed him doing these things, it was instantaneous. Now the story is, well, it depends on which one you read. I have given you both of them. I've given you on the back of the bulletin, the Matthew version. And just for fun, he curses a tree, and immediately the next sentence, and the fig tree withered at once. That sounds instantaneous, doesn't it? Mark does it a little differently. He curses it, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And his disciples heard it, and then he goes on. He goes to, well, they travel into Jerusalem. He goes to the temple. He curses the money changers and turns over their tables. And eventually, he heads back. It's evening. He leaves the city. And it says later in Mark, the next morning as they were walking by, it was withered and died. Wow. Did you ever wonder why things, if he could do things so instantaneously, why when you pray about something and you affirm something, sometimes it seems to take some time? A lot of times, perhaps your prayers aren't answered instantly, or your affirmations do not demonstrate instantly. He's teaching them, I think, that sometimes it takes a little time. Something has to happen within in order for that without to demonstrate, to come about. There's some funny things to me about it being a fig tree. It's a great shade tree. Fig tree, wonderful shade tree. Maybe you remember, well, if you're old enough, you'd remember that Adam and Eve, oh, you weren't there, were you? Adam and Eve covered themselves with fig leaves. Now I heard someone say, and they're not very good coverage either. Fig leaves. In the temple in Jerusalem, there's the altar for burnt sacrifices, for the burnt offerings. People are bringing in, nice goat, some various food items, and they have to have a place to cook it. The altar for the sacrifice is burning with fire. How else are you going to do a barbecue? But the preferred wood is not olive wood, which there's plenty around. The preferred wood is fig. I've never seen anyone burn fig. And it's said that a acceptable offering from someone who was really poor, that couldn't afford an animal, was a branch of fig tree. And then there's for some Christians, there's a tradition. I've not heard about it very often, but there's a tradition that tree that he cursed, the leaves fell off, so totally withered and died. So it was a trunk, a dead trunk. And one of those traditions says that Jesus was crucified on the trunk of the fig tree he cursed. It was an interesting piece of lore from ancient times. But we wonder, what is this? What is this to us? How is it important to us? I spoke about the fig Newton in your mind, fig Newton of your imagination, fig trees of the mind. We do have fig trees in our minds that need to wither and die. Every one of us has an unfruitful condition in our life at one time or another. Some of us may have them most of the time. Some may experience an unfruitful condition once in a while, but we have them. So it's for us to bring forth the fruit of our spiritual nature. In order to do that, we have to root out, deny some human limitation, some limited area of thinking in our lives, in our minds. We have to root out some fig trees to make room and to provide the foundation and the fertilizer for good, in order for our faith to be invested in the right place. You've heard me tell you that we all have faith. You don't need to pray for more faith. You've got it. It's one of the 12 divine ideas, one of your 12 faculties. You've got faith, but it's where we put it, where we invest it. We invested it in God, or we invested in something else, not God. Good or not good. All things considered, I think it's a lot better to invest it in God or good. Jesus, after the cursing of the fig tree, he goes into the story of you can remove mountains if you have faith and don't doubt. If you have faith and keep your faith invested in the presence of good, in the power of God, in the activity of God in your life, in all that concerns you. But sometimes we move it in God one minute and something else the next. In Jesus' language, Aramaic, the word for faith is hemenutha. Hemenutha. It means faith. Also means trust. It means faith or trust. When you speak the word of an affirmation, if you declare some truth principle about your life, you want to invest your faith. You want to trust that what you are speaking is true and what you are declaring is coming forth for you. That you are connected to the power of God and you can bring it forth. If your faith stays steadily directed, steadily invested in the power of God, the power of good, the power of whatever word you're speaking. We opened with the opening statement that comes from Emily Cady. Surely you've heard of that lady before, right? Well, I once again went back to Cady, actually this week. And I relooked at one of the chapters because of talking about the fig tree. Besides demonstrating to the disciples that not all spiritual demonstrations are instantaneous, that some take time. Who knows what is required for synchronicity, for everything to come together, for something to happen that you're affirming or praying about or you're investing your faith in. So the clue is to keep centered. But also, this is a dramatic denial, if you will. He's looking at something and taking the power out of it. It's a fig tree. This journey is a spring. Well, fig trees in the spring produce what's called poor man's fruit. This one doesn't happen to have any fruit, but if it had fruit, it would be poor man's fruit, which are small figs that aren't sweet. About this time of year, October, they produce rich man's fruit. Big figs that are deliciously sweet. It's an interesting plant, and they certainly produce a lot, except this one. So it's a reminder. This fig tree is a reminder of those things that we hold in mind. Some of them we're not even consciously aware that we hold them. But they're not producing the good we desire. Maybe in the back there's some little concept of, I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough. Or, I'm asking too much from God and the universe. Those are fig trees that aren't bearing fruit. They're not going to bear fruit. They need to be denied, pulled out. They need to be allowed to wither because the power is taken away. So when I went back to Cady and looked at the chapter in Lessons in Truth on denials, on the back of your bulletin, I gave you what she calls the 4 great denials. And I want to read what she says about these. There are 4 common error thoughts to which nearly everyone grants great power. Nearly everyone. So she's including most of us. Persons who have grown out of sickness and trouble through prayer have found it good to deny these thoughts in order to cleanse the mind of the direful effects of believing them. Wow. She's saying you've got fig trees in your mind that need to wither and die. That energy can be converted into something good and useful because it's not productive. What it produces is not what you want, not bringing joy and wonderful good into your life. So she begins with the first one. It's on the back of your bulletin. There is no evil. Well, how about some bad? Is there bad? Or, oh, that's not good. Is there some of that? She's telling you no. There is no evil. Why? Because God is omnipresent throughout the universe, the one and only power, and the nature of God is absolute good. So, where would evil come from? Charles Fillmore said, evil has no independent existence of its own. It comes through our thinking and belief. We form and shape evil as the frustration of good. What happens to it as soon as we stop doing that? When you stop investing the energy in it, it's like the fig tree. It withers and dies. That it can be, it's the interesting symbolism being used for the fire on the altar. What is that for? It's being burned, consumed, so that it can be reformed and reshaped. It becomes light and heat. We need to reshape that idea that there's evil in the world. There is no evil. Together? There is no evil. Are you sure? Did anything say, yeah, but he doesn't know about my Uncle Frank? There is no evil. That's it. As long as there's any residual of the idea of evil, we need to keep routing, working on digging up that fig tree, getting it out so that we can plant something that builds the good we want, builds a consciousness that allows more God to flow into and through our lives, through our minds and our hearts and our bodies. The second one, there is no absence of life. I've always inserted love in there. Life, love, substance, or intelligence anywhere. How can that be? I mean, they tell you the universe is filled with a lot of vacuum. Yeah. God is the universe and everything in it. God is at all points in time and space. Because you don't see that presence as a physical thing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Because God is, there is life, love, substance, and intelligence at all points in the universe. Something you can remind yourself when you're looking at a challenge, a problem, some situation that seems bad in your life. Did I say that? Right there, right where you are, right in that very moment, all the life, love, power, and intelligence of God are already there. And the substance, too. Everything necessary to change that situation, to bring about the highest good. It's right there. But we forget. There is no absence of life and love, substance, or intelligence anywhere. Together. There is no absence of life, love, substance, or intelligence anywhere. You cannot find that place where it is not, because you cannot find the place where God is not. Number 3. We'll skip number 3. Well, maybe we better not. Pain, sickness, poverty, old age, and death cannot master me. Do you ever think about any of that grocery list? Pain, sickness, poverty, old age, none of us. But death cannot master me. Why? For they are not real, and they have no power over me. Does God experience any of these things? Pain, sickness, poverty, old age, death? Of course not. Therefore, they have no reality. They are not eternal. They are temporary conditions. And they're caused by our attitudes, our thinking, our beliefs. Times where we shut God out, shut divine life out of our bodies, where we forget that we're connected to all the life, love, substance, and intelligence in the universe. That we forget that right where we are, that God life already is. They're not real. And they have no power over me unless I give it to them. This is a fig tree that needs to be cursed pretty well. To be told, you have no power over me. You are not real. Let's join in speaking this together. Pain, sickness, poverty, old age, and death cannot master me, for they are not real, and they have no power over me. Just say that again. They have no power over me. Say it to yourself silently. They have no power over me unless I give it to them. By allowing them to continue to live thoughts of these conditions, to live in my mind and my heart. They're fig trees. And her fourth one, there is nothing in all the universe for me to fear. Whoa, that's a great statement. Are you afraid of anything? Do you have fear about anything? Do you ever have fear about tomorrow? About your body? About your finances? There is nothing in all the universe for me to fear. Together? There is nothing in all the universe for me to fear. Why? For greater is He that is within me than he that is in the world. Greater is He, capital He, the divine Spirit of God that is within me, than anything, any personality, any person, or even my human self. In other words, nothing can defeat, overcome affect God. And that Spirit of God is in me. Therefore, it cannot come unto me either. At the end of this chapter, she shares these words with you. Repeat these 4 denials silently several times a day. Well, I gave them to you. You can take them with you. You can put them in your pocket. I have given them to you in the past, laminated, so that you could take them even swimming if you wanted. Repeat these 4 denials silently several times a day, not with a strained anxiety to get something out of them, but trying calmly to realize the meaning of the words spoken. That's one of the keys to affirmation. The words you must understand, the words you're using. And then hemenutha, faith in the words that you're speaking, either silently or aloud. Well, what'd you learn in church today? Well, he taught me how to curse. Yeah, and this is the good kind. This is the positive kind. The kind that sets you free. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Remember that you are in the presence of God. That God is present in you. You have the power to speak the word as Jesus spoke the word. To speak a word of truth. And see it demonstrate in your life. Or to speak a word of error and experience that in your life. There's no coercion in spirituality. You may think whatever you will. You may believe whatever you will. But what you think, what you believe, what fig trees there are producing fruit in your mind, is it the kind of fruit you want to eat? Is it nurturing, nourishing, life-sustaining? Is it true about God, about you? You have the power to speak a word of truth in faith and know that it can remove or wither these unproductive states of mind and the negative appearances that follow. As we began with this 4th great denial, let us also close with this 4th denial.